Welcome to Marvelous Disney, the podcast that discusses the most recent doings at one of the more dynamic divisions of the Walt Disney Company, which is, of course, Marvel Entertainment. My co-host, the amazing Aaron Adams, and I are recording this on Monday, December 16th, and this is going to be a mini-sode, folks, largely because the holidays are looming, and some of you may still be wondering what to get the Marvel fans on your Christmas list. But before we plunge into that timely topic, a few quick housekeeping notes. Aaron, I don't know if you remember, right after New York Comic Con, we talked about how Disney staged a celebration of Stan Lee at the New Amsterdam Theater in New York.
Yeah.
They did it at that time supposedly to grab everybody who was still in town for New York Comic Con, and also on a night when Frozen was dark at that theater. Well, we're finally going to get to see it. It's actually going to be debuting on ABC the night the show will go live online, and that'll be Friday, December 20th. This show, called Celebrating Marvel's Stan Lee, it's an hour-long special produced by ABC News. It's beginning airing in East Coast in the Pacific time slot. It started at 8. 7 Central, and we talked a little bit about the folks who were going to show up on this thing. Folks like Tom Hiddleston, Paul Bettany, Ming-Na Wen, Mark Hamill. Looks to be a pretty impressive lineup of folks, both on stage there at the New Amsterdam as well in film clips. So if you do the DVR thing, folks, might be a good thing to DVR.
Do you think it will end up on Disney Plus in the future?
I don't know. The weird thing is so many of the things that Disney has done quote-unquote live lately have showed up in different places. There was that Little Mermaid live thing they did in early November.
Right.
And I think Nancy was just mentioning that bubbled up on Freeform after appearing on the Disney Channel. Mm-hmm. So, and this being Stan Lee, I'm kind of hoping, to be honest, given that what you and I initially heard was, there were 2 hours plus of people on stage talking about Stan and that sort of thing. I'm kind of hoping that if it does bubble up somewhere else, it won't be necessarily the cut down to an hour version, that maybe we'll get to see the whole show.
Right.
Let's see. Just a little news before we get to our shopping suggestions here, folks. Christmas is traditionally a time when, the whole peace on earth, goodwill toward men thing is supposedly in all our lips. And I'm kind of hoping that Marvel Us Disney listers could maybe toss a little goodwill toward Scott Derrickson. He's the gentleman who directed the original Doctor Strange back in 2016. And more importantly, Scott's the guy who slated to direct the sequel, the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which is due to arrive in theaters on May 7th, 2021. Now, the reason I say slated is that Derrickson tweeted something out last night that I think may tick off the powers that be at Disney and Marvel. And oddly enough, this kind of touches on something that you've talked about, Aaron, but he basically said, this is a direct quote, he said, studio release dates are the enemy of art. And look, I get that. I really do. And in fact, especially in Scott's situation, because his is really the first film that has to sort of link up between 2 Disney Plus projects. We've talked at length about WandaVision, about how that's debuting on Disney Plus in spring of 2021, and then sometime after Multiverse of Madness, Loki is supposed to start, also on Disney Plus in 2021. So Scott really can't miss the window. Scott has to have his film ready. And the problem is that Scott also has to make a sequel that's worthy of the original Doctor Strange from 2016, which had 1,450 effect shots in it.
Heaven forbid, Jim, what would happen if, Benedict Cumberbatch were to break his leg and couldn't film for, 3 months of recovery? Would we get Doctor Strange suddenly played by his cousin Ted Cumberbatch?
I don't know.
You're right. He can't miss that deadline. As soon as was it Scarlet? No, yeah, Scarlet Vision or WandaVision. As soon as WandaVision comes out, you've got to have your Doctor Strange immediately after that. So.
Particularly with Elizabeth Olsen supposedly co-starring in that film. I don't know what to tell you. I know that, for example, when they were shooting The Force Awakens and they had that accident on the set of, where Harrison Ford basically broke his leg and was out of commission for 3 months, they shot around him. Face it, they had that option with the Doctor Strange movie. That's not really the case. And, let's remember that there's also this weird artificial pressure on Multiverse of Badness because it's supposedly setting up something that's crucial for Phase 4. And also, frankly, supposedly Marvel Studios wants to make this the first of the official cinematic universe movies that have sort of a horror underpinning so they can bring in that audience that enjoyed Venom. I don't know. I really hope that people at Disney and Marvel will just, read this as, a somewhat intemperate comment and, not do something stupid like punish Scott and bring in a new director. I mean, it seems to me kind of the anti-James Gunn. I remember how when Disney let Gunn go off of Guardians Volume 3, he was very gracious, and in fact, that's basically what left the door open for his return. And something like this, just sort of
you don't know. Again, he could be talking about some project that's way, way, way in the future. But I mean, really, all things have deadlines. Jim, you were a writer for many years. Were any of your stories kind of turn them in whenever you felt like it? I know whenever at the radio station I had to write and produce a commercial, chances are it started on Monday. I was getting notes on Friday. And I had a deadline of you got till, Monday to get it done. So, I mean, everybody has a deadline. And it doesn't matter if art's attached to it or not. The reason he has the privilege of making a movie is because directors are usually handed a deadline along with a budget. The two go hand in hand, don't they?
They do.
You don't get a pile of money of like a couple $100 million and they go, turn it in whenever. That's not part of. That's never been part of the equation. So
no, I get that.
I'm with them on the. It would be nice if you had forever, but then we wouldn't get movies. We would get passion projects that like the Man Who Killed Don Quixote from Terry Gilliam that took like 30 years to come to fruition. Something like that. We don't want that. I mean, I'm glad it finally got done, but.
No, I agree. I just think, this is what kind of makes me crazy about living in the social media age. In years previous, we have never heard, or maybe we would have heard about this years after the fact that, guy under pressure doing, a high profile film and, bitching to friends about it. And, the difference is that now it's out in the social sphere and
now everyone's got to have an opinion about it. Yeah. I mean, totally. I get it. It's a high pressure job. I don't envy him, but he's talented. He's pulled it off before. I think he'll do it again. It's just, you kind of always have a gun to your head, and that's really not a fun way to live.
No, that's true. Okay, yeah. and pivoting to an entirely different. Speaking of deadline, folks, December 25th is, good Lord, only 9 days away now. We're recording this again on the 16th. And again, if you're shopping for a Marvel fan on your list, they have very specific tastes, so it's hard to zero in on what they'd like and what they'd enjoy this holiday season. And thankfully, Aaron has done a lot of the heavy lifting for you. I have a couple ideas myself, and we will talk about them when we get back from this commercial break.
Rain-X wipers are the #1 wiper blades in America. That means all kinds of drivers choose Rain-X. Big drivers in small cars choose Rain-X. Small drivers in big cars choose Rain-X. Drivers with long hair and short commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with short hair and long commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with pets on board, babies on board, and bored babies on board choose Rain-X. Basically, drivers who love a clear view of the road all choose Rain-X wipers, the #1 wiper blades in America.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
And we're back. So, Aaron, you prepared the master list. I have a couple of things to just toss in the pile here, but why don't you get started here?
All right. Well, I guess since there's such a tight deadline between now and Christmas, you better have something like Amazon Prime with like right now shipping. But we'll start off at number 10. Comics. You can buy a subscription for your comic book fan. Stack of Comics always do them right? That's why we got into loving the MCU, was because we read the comics back in the day. So they're affordable. $5 for an issue if you just grab one off the shelf. $1,000 if it's graded and signed and perfect and all that stuff. So you can go as affordable or as luxurious as you want in the comics category. And no matter which way you go, a comic fan will appreciate the one off the rack or the one that's been graded and is a coveted issue. So can't miss with comics at number 10. Number 9, Disney Plus. $70 gets them a year. Entrance to almost all of the MCU. And for a bonus, I'm sure they're probably Star Wars fans as well. Also gets them all the Star Wars content when you're in the Disney Plus subscription. Number 8, games. Simple games like Marvel Dice Masters. You go out, you buy a deck. It's a couple of cards and a couple of dice. Costs a couple of bucks. You build them, you collect them, you play with them. It's fun. It's relatively cheap. Marvel Legendary deck building game has been around forever. Marvel Champions. Thanos Rising apparently is rather popular with the kids right now, so check that one out. But yeah, classic board games. Gets the whole family around the table having a good time. Can't beat that, right?
Okay.
We'll move on to number 7, clothing. I've got 68 Spider-Man t-shirts, boxers, and socks. If you know someone that loves a specific hero, you grab a t-shirt with that logo on it, you are set to impress. Relatively inexpensive, $15 to $30.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up. I don't normally spring for the Marvel clothing, but this year, again, I live in New Hampshire. So again, state motto, live free or die. We were at the Disney outlet at the Merrimack Mall, a couple of months ago. And there in the pile was a T-shirt that said, again, keying off of Captain Marvel, live free or die. And it was, and I had to buy it.
Yeah.
It just,
every once in a while, there's the one that grabs you and he said, that is coming home with me today.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on, number 5, as we get closer to the top 5 here, get a little bit more expensive as we go. Number 5 is Hasbro Legends 1-to-1 replicas. They've got a Iron Man helmet that's like $100, a Black Panther helmet, Ant-Man. They've got an Infinity Gauntlet, both the Thanos sized and the Tony Stark variety.
I actually, oh my God, I saw these earlier today. And a little background, last year, not this year, I was at Target, and on the toy aisle, they had the Thanos glove.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was like $27, and I had it in the cart, but as I was going up to the front, I had the conversation with myself, you're a nearly 60-year-old man. This is a giant piece of plastic. What the hell are you going to do with this? And I talked myself out of getting it. Man. And I have regretted it ever since.
Yep.
And so, but the thing is that it's molded into the fish shape already. Whereas today, when just doing the due diligence for our shopping show, again, I came across these Marvel Legends series Endgame Electronic Infinity Power Gauntlet. That's the whole name, folks.
Yeah.
And oh my God, these things, they have a Infinity Stone glow effect. They have movie inspired sound effects. You can put it in locked fist mode for display.
Yep.
And the fact that it came in both Thanos and Tony Stark style, it but of course, as you said, earlier this year it was selling for like $70. Right now, near as I can tell, the price is $99 across the board.
Right.
And it's sort of like, and again, just this time of year, you're really not supposed to be spending money on yourself. So I kind of defaulted, and I don't know if you saw what they had at Disneyland this summer, but they actually had a Thanos gauntlet sipper.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's going on eBay right now, anywhere from $9.99 to $25, and I'm trying to talk myself into that as opposed to springing for either the Iron Man or the actual Mad Titan version, because they are so cool looking. And you're right. I mean, they're just such great looking replicas.
I almost came home from the comic book store wearing an Ant-Man helmet one day. It was like, I got $100. I can do this, right? And I'm thinking, how much am I going to have to explain to my wife? It'll be fine, But I actually got her for our anniversary, because she's a fan of Captain America. I got her the Hasbro Legends, was it 75th anniversary Captain America metal shield. And that was like $300 when we purchased it, and it's now like north of $1,000 because it was a limited edition deal, and people really, really want them, and they didn't make very many of them. So if you keep your eye on the Hasbro Legends, because a lot of collectors really like that, these aren't really made for kids. These are made more for collectors. No. It's an eye for detail in these little bits here. So, the price tag's $100, but they're a bit more quality, a bit more detail paid to it, and it's made for adult collectors to display on a shelf more than it is for your 11-year-old to bang his head against the wall with a helmet on, going, "I'm Ant-Man." It's a different set. So
yeah, but the phrase I keep seeing over and over here with the Marvel Legends stuff is premium role play item.
Exactly. Premium and role play lets you know this ain't for kiddies.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Number 5, this is getting back into the kids zone, Marvel Lego sets. Oh, everyone loves Legos. Even at my tender age of going on 46 here, still love Legos. So throw a Spider-Man Lego fig in there, and I'm a happy dude. It's all good. Number 4, Hot Toys. I've been collecting Hot Toys for a long time, and the reason is they are spectacular looking. The sculpt quality, the image quality, the costuming quality, every little bit, the accessories, just it's crazy, insanely detailed stuff. The figures are usually ranging from $200 to $450-ish, sometimes even higher, depending on what you're getting. But if you love the Marvel movies, if you love Star Wars stuff, the only downside is they're usually about a year behind the movie when the figure is released. So in May of next year, of 2020, we'll start to see the figures from Endgame start to be available for purchase. So yeah, they take a while to hit the market. They definitely do not hit as the movies hit like other toys do. These are, the likeness is so crazy good. You really have to see it to really understand how crazy good these toys are. So Hot Toys are the premium for the collector. That really lets them know you love them a lot. Moving on up from there, artwork at number 3. And again, that can go from the relatively moderately priced at $100, and then it can get a little bit more higher in the price tag, up to $400 or $500, depending on who the artist is. If it's a limited quantity, of course, subject matter is always a thing. So if Avengers is hot at the moment, Avengers will be, popular and probably have a bit more of a higher price tag than some of the other things like Swamp Thing, for example, sitting next to it. And then, as we move on to number 2, Marvel Arcade Cabinet. Jim, I don't know if you've seen, recently it seems arcade cabinets are making a comeback, and I think it's because they can make them dirt cheap. It's a little TV screen, basically, with a little USB plugged into it that lets you play Millipede or Centipede or whatever. And I've seen like a large number of variety of arcade cabinets, like at a local Fry's as we were walking around, and they're like almost full size.
Okay, I have to go check these out.
Yeah,
okay.
But and this would be like Marvel versus Capcom. I think back in the day had a cabinet. I don't know if it was only on consoles or if they actually had a cabinet for it. I really don't remember, but this is just a Marvel arcade cabinet, and we've got a link for it at Walmart has them, and I want to say that they're like a couple $100. And, you know, back in the day when I was dropping quarters into arcade machines when I was like a teen, I dropped so many quarters into those cabinets, I should have owned my own arcade by myself from all that money. But that's beside the point. Now I can buy a Marvel arcade cabinet, put it in the corner of the apartment, and I'm good to go. And then number one, here's the big one. If you're a billionaire and you got oodles of money to just throw away for nothing, but we're going to have a link in the show notes for Marvel life-size statues. And those things can be $8K per statue. But if you want all of the Avengers and you got $60,000 to throw at it, by gosh, you can do it.
Well, and it's interesting you bring that up because one of our listeners just sent us, there's this chain of restaurants in Mexico that's just come across the American border. And the gimmick of the design of these restaurants is they bought, dozens upon dozens of these figures and set them up in the actual restaurant. And what's fascinating is that you get that Planet Hollywood vibe, but at obviously a much lower price point.
Uh-huh.
And I apologize, I'm blanking the name of our listener that sent this along, but wanted me to investigate. And in fact, we'll talk about it more on a future show because I'm still waiting to hear back from friends at Marvel Studios and Disney to the effect of, is this even allowed? The interesting thing is they have not just the Marvel full-size figures, they have the DC full-size figures.
Right.
They have things like the Simpsons couch that was created to promote the Simpsons movie back in 2003, 2004? And, but they have all of these full-size pieces inside of this restaurant. And, that borderline legal, but you still want to go? It's like, wow, that would be so cool to go to.
Well, I know like in Chicago, there was a place called Starship Subs that had like a whole bunch of Star Trek and Star Wars themed stuff and it was a tiny little sub shop. But it had like all the posters and maybe like some models hanging from the ceiling and that was about it. And it wasn't like something where, it was like museum quality props or anything like that. It was like a couple of models. That was about it. And I wouldn't say that any Star Trek or Star Wars lawyer, would have to go, hey, we need to talk about this. I think they'd walk in and go, oh, that's cool. It's just not infringing enough. It's like not in their name, Marvel restaurant, No.
I get that. I do. I guess the one issue here, though, is it is a standalone Starship Subs. This is an entire chain. This is the business model. Each and every one of these has this absolutely amazing collection of full-size figures. And, from DC, from Marvel, from, pop culture.
Yeah, but I also know of like the roadside inn tavern thing where they've got like all the signs. There'll be like a Coca-Cola sign that was from the 60s and a Texaco sign up on the wall, like bazillions of signs of old companies that have been around forever. And I don't think that, the Pennzoil Motor Oil Company is going to come down on them because they've got their thing on their wall, right? So, and it's just one of these things where if they were serving the Batman burrito, I think it would be different. But if they're serving a burrito and there just happens to be a Batman, well, that's just decor.
All right, we'll tell you what. While we were chatting, I hammered on my email here, and the listener who sent this information in was Dennis Snow. And the restaurant chain we're talking about that started in Mexico that seems to have crossed over to Arizona is called Comic X. And that's all one word, Comic X. So if you Google that and take a look at some of the photos from inside there, they do a beautiful job. They're wonderfully displayed. But again, from a Disney legal point of view, just sort of like, I don't think, I don't know. I'm when I hear back from friends at Marvel at Disney, I will let you know what they have to say. I was more concerned about not getting these folks in trouble, largely because it looks like they do a quality job. And like you said, if they bought all of these these full-size figures legally.
Yeah.
It's their property to display the way they want to, right? Or
it's like hanging a wooden spoon and wooden fork on the wall, right? If you were like a Cracker Barrel or something. I mean,
yeah, okay, all right, just, but again, in this case, the giant wooden spoon and the giant wooden fork is it's a whole chain of, yeah, there we go. Okay, well, before we wrap up here, just a couple of quick things to add to the pile, and again, I'm a big book guy, so we're going to go with the Scrooge Ghost of Past, Present, Future thing. Past. Again, Aaron was nice enough to draw my attention to the art of Avengers Endgame a few weeks back. That book is well worth getting. What's interesting, though, is in celebration of the 10th anniversary of the launch of Marvel Studios, they reprinted the original Art of Iron Man. They put out a special 10th anniversary edition. This is 208-page hardcover, comes with a brand new slipcover. It's basically the same book that came out in 2008 with the original Robert Downey Jr. film. But you were talking about, how people love to collect the art. What they included as part of the reprinting of this book is an awesome litho. You can typically pick these things up for $40 to $45 a piece. So well worth checking out. On the other hand, again, if you're into concept art, just this year, there was the movie-making magic of Marvel Studios, Heroes and Villains. This came out from Abrams back in April of this year. 176-page hardcover by Eleni Russi. And has some, again, wonderful concept art. And again, if you're concerned about a price point, you can pick this up. It's retailing for $29.99, but I was just over on Amazon. This is going for just $13.99 at this point. So, if you're scrambling and as Aaron mentioned, doing the Amazon Prime, 2-day shipping thing and that sort of thing, and are hunting for an Amazon fan, this might be the way to go. Now, this next one is definitely a Christmas future thing. It's not even being published till September 1st, 2020. But on the other hand, it's a 2-volume set. It's called Marvel Studios The First 10 Years. This is a 512-page behemoth of a actually 2-volume set, Aaron, with 100+ interviews with key producers, studio heads, and cast members who worked on the first 3 phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And again, it's coming from Abrams. Downside is it's $105, but on the other hand, in much the same way as the art of Mark Davis in his own word books that Chris Merritt and Pete Docter did earlier this year, that came out at $150 a piece, and eventually was available for like $70 or $80. So if you go at the right time, you definitely pick up a bargain here. But anyway, that's my last minute suggestions. Again, Aaron, that was a great list. That really went all the way across the board. God, now you got me thinking of that Thanos gauntlet thing again. Damn. Okay. I like your Captain America shield argument. It's not a collectible. It's an investment.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's going to appreciate. Okay, and beyond that, folks, again, the 25th is looming up quick, so you should really stop listening to this podcast and get shopping. But on the other hand, if you're looking for something to listen to as you're driving to the mall, we do a bunch of other podcasts here. We've got Disney Dish with Len Testa. We've got Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. We've got Looking at Lucasfilm with Dan Z, who's right now, as we speak, at the premiere of The Rise of Skywalker in Hollywood. So he's going to have lots of great stories when he gets back. We have Universal's Joint with Dustin Fuse, and we have I Want That Michelle Valladolid. By the way, folks, if you could do Aaron and I a big favor, if you like what you're listening to here tonight, if you could head over to iTunes and rate and recommend this show, that would be great. And if you really, really, really like what we do here, you head over to Bandcamp and subscribe. then makes it possible for us to afford Infinity Gauntlets. Now I really, really want one. Okay, well, anyway, thank you so much for listening, folks. And Aaron and I will be back early in the new year to look back at 2019 and to discuss what will be coming up in 2020 in the world of Marvel. And until then, take care.